Yes, you made it. You're watching Just Waking Up. My name is Brandy Monique Sieper. Welcome aboard. Boy, I am so excited to share with you a conversation that I had today with Samuel Chong. Samuel is an interpreter of the Ethiopian prophecies by Mechel Desmarquet. He translated from French to English. Uh, I'm sorry, from French to Chinese. Let me read you his bio. Samuel is an extremely accomplished individual and very admirable. He is a motivational keynote speaker on wellness, resilience, mindset, leadership, and positive change, health and well being, spirituality, and near death experiences, and extraterrestrials, ancient mysteries, and esoteric knowledge. He's currently an attorney, a lawyer in California. He graduated from UC Berkeley with a bachelor's in economics, and he also went to the Universidad Carlos III de Madrid, and he got a master's in financial analysis. And he also studied at Northwestern California University School of Law. And as I mentioned, he's a practicing attorney currently living in Los Angeles, California. Samuel visited Mechel Desmarquet, the author of Ethiopia Prophecy, in 2016 and 2018, and he was instrumental in arranging for the Chinese publication of Desmarquet's book, which has been a bestseller in both China and Taiwan. And that's kind of a big deal. That's a rare phenomenon, as he mentioned. He also translated a book titled 334 Lies, The Revelation of H.M. Stahl, an autobiography of the High Master of a Chair of a Secret Society that was started in Germany. Today, Samuel dedicates his efforts in promoting the messages that are found in these books in order to give people hope and to promote a better world. You know, when you meet those people and just by coming in their presence, whether it can even be on these devices, just hearing their voice, just watching and just listening, we're moved, we're activated, we're changed, we're shifted. Samuel is definitely one of these beings. I had such an amazing conversation with him. The story of Mechel Desmarquet is fascinating. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I. If you're watching this, know that I love you dearly and deeply. You've got this. There's good things ahead. Thank you for watching.
Yes, so my name is Samuel Chong. I'm a certified court interpreter in Los Angeles, California, and New York. And I was born in Beijing, China, about 46 years ago. I came to the US when I was 15. I was very curious about the paranormal because in China, back in the 80s, there were a lot of stories about people who gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle and people who saw UFOs or had encounters with ETs. People also had near death experiences, as documented by some of the stories told by either Chinese or Americans. So in China, there are a lot of stories like that. I was very curious about everything. So I was hoping to find additional information because, in China, they didn't provide the sources of information. So after I came to the US, after I improved my English, I began to do my own research. Along the way, I also met people who had extraordinary abilities, people who are able to see the organs of another, like they have X-ray eyes, people who can materialize objects, and people who can foretell what's going to happen in the future and what happened in the past. So my line of work is very interesting because I get to interact with people or in different industries. So I began to dive into a lot of research. So back in 2014, I found this book, Abduction to the Ninth Planet. And I was very, very curious about what ETs have to say about us and what's going to happen in the future. Because By that time, I already read so many books written by ET contactees. I was thinking if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have advanced knowledge and technologies. We can just learn from them. So that's my main curiosity and main purpose of looking into the stories told by ET contactees. And I read so many books already by that at that time. But this book, Abduction to the Next Planet, is unique.
And so have you always been an interpreter?
Um, in a sense, yes. Although I studied economics and financial analysis in college, I studied at UC Berkeley and also went to London School of Economics. I have a master's degree from a university in Spain, and I
Oh.
took a lot of courses. And right now I'm a lawyer because I took my time to study law and pass the California bar exam just recently.
Oh, congratulations. I think that that's not an easy task, if I understand correctly.
Yes, it's not easy.
So when you came across this book, what was the next step? What drove you? Like, how did you find him? And I know a little bit. I love the story of you finding him. It reminds me of something I would do. Can you tell that story on how you found Michelle?
Yes, the book opened my eyes. I couldn't put the book down after reading it halfway through. I just read it, just it's so interesting, especially in the part that says about Jesus and Christ, about the tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan, and how the Bible was distorted by the Catholic Church Council meetings. I couldn't really like uh, find additional information about the author, so I looked online and to see if he was still alive. The main reason was that in the postscript of the book, it says there are far more incredible things that the author knew but couldn't write in the book because we were far from understanding them. I was very shocked at that because the book is already shocking enough, incredibly enough. And there are far more incredible things that he knew but couldn't write in the book. I wanted to find out more. So I did a search, I tracked him down. It turned out that there was a tourist who met him accidentally and posted whereabouts of Michel Desmarquet, the author. But after I reached out to him, he refused to give me Michel Desmarquet's exact address. So I had to do my own work. I tried to call different places around that location, but didn't get an answer. So I decided to take the chance. So I flew. I spent $2,000 and flew to that city, and then I showed the local taxi driver a picture that I grabbed from the internet, taken by the tourist, that showed the bungalow that Michel Desmarquet was living at. And then I said to the taxi driver, just take me to this bungalow, this place. I want to go there. And then at the second try, he took me to the right location. So that's how I met Michel Desmarquet. He was actually having an afternoon nap. And I waited for about an hour or so, and he woke up and we met.
Wow. So what was his reaction? Was he, um, yeah, what was his reaction when you met with him?
He said, "Oh, you came here. Okay, okay." So he was just like that. Okay, and then I said, "I'm here for the book. This book is really interesting, amazing. I have a lot of more questions to ask you about." And then he said, "What do you have in mind?" So I just told him some of my questions, and he said, "Read one more time. Read one more time." Then this is in his thick French accent, and then he was really annoyed at my questions, and also a little bit annoyed of my visit because he was a very private person. It seemed to me that he didn't want to be bothered by people who came to him because of the book.
And so eventually he warmed up to you and agreed to have you interpret the book.
Yeah, what happened was that just 2 days before I was about to leave, I was going to stay there for 5 days. That's my trip, and I was just going to say that if I wasn't able to find him, then I would be just take my vacation over there and just relax. But I found him the day before I was about to leave, actually 2 days before, he said, "Oh, you're Chinese, right?" I said, "Yes." He said, "There's a contract. Could you please helped me to find the publisher because they paid me $2,000 for the copyright royalties, but they never contact me again. And I was very, very happy because he asked me for a favor. That meant that I can ask him for a favor. Just tell me what else he knew but couldn't write in the book. And he said, yeah, just to follow up with the publisher to see the updates if they have any updates. I did. It turned out that the publisher paid him but decided not to have the book published because of the fear of censorship in China. They're a publisher under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so they're really careful about what to be published. They're really afraid of offending the Chinese government. So Michel learned about this and said that, if they decided not to publish it, just find a different publisher, either in China, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Singapore. Just publish in Chinese. And I did put my whole efforts into finding a different publisher. And then just before he passed away, it was determined to be published in China and later in Taiwan.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so after that, he agreed to have you interpret the book. Can you share with us his story, like how he was abducted? What is in the book? I know that there's a lot, but how is it that he ended up abducted or taken or going for a visit? It's almost like abduction is such a terrifying term. I almost want to say he went for a visit.
Yes, he went for a tour. He
He
was
went for a
actually
tour.
invited. He
Yeah.
was actually invited uh,
Yes.
to Thiaoouba the planet. What happened was that in 1987, he was sleeping normally in the middle of the night, but he suddenly woke up. He didn't know why he woke up, and then he just didn't know why he walked to his kitchen area and wrote a note saying that he will be gone for 10 days. There's
That's
absolutely no need to worry
fascinating.
about him. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. That fascinates me. Do you think he had contact with them at all prior to that at all?
No,
Like,
not at all.
okay. Okay, keep going. Sorry for interrupting you.
So he wrote a note and left her to his wife, and then he didn't know why, but he walked outside of his house. Normally, during that time, there will be like insects, the sounds of insects, and else. He didn't know why, but he started to feel that everything changed. The environment changed to be fuzzier and fuzzier, and there was no sound at all, no sound of nature at all. Everything was silent or dead silent. And then he was lifted up to the mid of the air, and then he saw this very tall, angelic-looking astronaut wearing like an astronaut clothing, and it's a Caucasian, like 9 or 10 foot tall, but very, very benevolent. He felt compassion and love, and then he was told that he should be at peace of himself. There's absolutely no need to fear, and then he was invited to go with that person, the ET. They actually stopped at a transfer station, what the book calls a parallel universe, because in a parallel universe, uh, the astronaut, the ET, can hide themselves from Mechel Desmarquet's neighbors, so his neighbors wouldn't be able to see the spacecraft. And then, but in the parallel universe, he was told about this natural phenomena, because a lot of people in the Bermuda Triangle or national parks in the US and Canada, as documented by David Paulides, they get sucked into a parallel universe if they're near the portal, near the warp. So this is why a lot of people just gone missing. So this is actually a natural phenomenon. There are a lot of documented stories like that.
Can you define, would you mind defining what a parallel universe is?
It's actually like a space that's unique to the to the atmosphere of Earth. So when people are near that portal, which is like a ribbon, like moving at different locations depending on the time, they get stuck into this space in which time stops. So Michelle actually saw a lot of people in the parallel universe behaving very strangely. And where, for example, he saw some people wearing medieval clothes. He saw people behaving like savages, like Bigfoot. He saw people like didn't know what's going on, and so he actually observed what it is inside of a parallel universe that can explain why some people just suddenly gone missing, and people should read can read the book Missing 411 by David Paulides to find out more information about how the rescue teams searched a specific location, found no trace of the dead body, no trace of whereabouts of the missing person. But a few days later, the corpse of the missing person appeared at the location that they searched multiple times before. Um, my explanation is that they just accidentally came out of the parallel universe, and then because of the height differences, they actually fell and died, unfortunately. So that's the
Oh,
explanation. Yeah.
hmm, interesting. That's interesting. Uh, thank you. So he goes into this parallel universe with the Theobian being. And does he go to, where does he go? And what is the craft that he's on? I wanted to ask you about that. I haven't read the book. And so I would love an opportunity to meet again after I read it. And I'll talk to you later about that. I'd love to do a book report on it.
Okay.
I'm um, so I'm curious what the technology is of the craft that he went on. Was it alive? Was it mechanical? Does he speak at all about how the craft moved aside from it being in a parallel universe?
Yes, they actually used the parallel universe as a transfer stop. So Michel
Mm.
Desmarquet, he went with the ET and went inside of the craft, which is a spherical shape and 100 meters in diameter. And they took off and left the parallel universe. And then they began their journey in the very beginning very slowly. And then Michelle saw the different planets in the solar system. And then they, according to Michelle, went into deep space. And then in deep space, they traveled um, using what they would call substantiation, like which is kind of like teleportation. Um, uh, like transubstantiation and just moving from one space and time to a different space of time immediately without any loss of time. And
Excellent.
then, yeah, and then they also traveled at a few times faster than speed of light once they reach closely enough to their destination because they can also only do transubstantiation or teleportation in deep space. Otherwise, the spacecraft would have exploded. So that's an explanation given to Michel. But remember, Michel was a farmer or landscaper in Australia. He didn't have the knowledge or the technical knowledge of a physician or a physicist or like a scientist. So he didn't ask very in-depth questions about their technologies. But he
I
saw,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he saw that this group of ETs they have a lot of the abilities, supernatural abilities, as described in the Bible of what Christ did, like materializing objects, healing all the diseases you can think of, and levitation, like levitating themselves, and also a lot of other miraculous things that they can do. They operated their spacecraft um, with like a computer system, and he didn't describe in details, but one could read the book in details and think that they use both methods. One is the like computer screens.
Mhm.
They show the different pictures of the stars and planets that they traveled through, and also some of the places they stopped. Um, they also used some kind of uh, like a system to operate, and he saw the numbers, the numeric numbers that we used on the screen, and he was quite shocked at that kind of revelation. And he asked, "Why do you use the same numbers that we use?" And he was told that the ETs actually introduced the numbers numeric system that we are using today.
Wow.
Actually, as you read the book, you're going to learn that they have been heavily involved or intervened throughout history, throughout the human history, mankind on Earth, from the very, very beginning, from the first time that we came to Earth, because different people came from different planets, according to them. And the earliest people came to Earth about 1.35 million years ago. And that's the black people and the yellow people, the Chinese and blacks. And then the ancestors of the Polynesians came afterwards, and then the Caucasians came thereafter, and the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, came the latest. And the Hebrew people are very unique, according to the book. So this explains a lot of things that we've been wondering about. And since the very beginning, the Hebrews had conflicts with the people who lived in that area, the Middle East area, because
Does
of
the
the differences.
does the book explain or give hints as to what star system each of these groups came from?
Yes, uh, actually, only the blacks and yellows, yes, and the Hebrews, they came from a planet called Hebra. They didn't mention anything about the Caucasians, and the
Mhm.
Polynesians, yes, is called Arimo X3. And the ETs themselves, the Thiaoubans, came from a planet that's what Michel would call the golden planet, because it's a very unique planet that as he approached that planet, he saw like a golden mist surrounding the planet, very beautiful. And once he landed on the planet, everything is so colorful and shiny, and he had to wear like a facial mask, like sunglasses, to filter out the strong lights. Otherwise, he would have been drunken by the strong lights.
Did he eat food there?
Yes, he did. He only ate like every 2 days or so, because they
Okay.
ate the food that releases calories at different intervals. So he didn't feel very hungry, uh,
Hmm.
like us, like every few hours. He and the foods are actually made of different materials, ingredients, and they make them into powders. He also drank like a honey meal. Um, that tastes very sweet, just like our honey. And they actually ate manna as well. So manna is kind of like a space food that can be taken by them during their long journeys in space, because the mannas are very compactable. Um, and this is a whole food because it contains all the nutrients that the astronaut need. So it's actually a space food that they gave to the Hebrews during Exodus. So they were watching over Moses. So they helped Moses to part the sea, to help Moses to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt. Um,
That's fascinating. And so they gave, was it the Ethiopians in particular or any other star race or specifically the Ethiopians?
It's just the Ethiopians,
Okay.
because they are given the task of being our mentor, watching us over time throughout history, giving us assistance. Most of the time indirectly, but a few times directly, such as Exodus, the birth of Jesus, and the crucifixion of Christ, and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, and preventing Germany from being the first country to develop the atomic bomb. So those a few times they intervene directly, but most of the times indirectly.
Was the time of Christ the first time that they had intervened, or what was when did they first intervene or assist humanity?
Uh, that's that's actually 1.35
Okay.
million years ago. That's when the blacks and the yellows first landed on Earth from a planet called the Bachleors. What happened was that the blacks first landed in Australia, was now today's Australia, and the separate group went to Africa, North Africa. And then what happened was that the separate group began to
What are you, the Cetrus group?
the separatist, like
Cetrus.
no separatist,
Oh,
like a rebel.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they separated from the people in Australia and went to North Africa.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay. And then there was another group that went to Myanmar.
that's the that's the yellow people. The yellow
Okay.
people landed in Myanmar, but the
Okay.
black
Sorry for
people,
interrupting.
yeah, but the black people first landed in Australia, and a
Mhm.
group of the black people separated, didn't want to be governed by the main group in Australia, so they left and went to North Africa, and they began to believe in a cult, and the priests began to have accumulate more and more power and began to really to suppress the people, the common people, and using religion, using their power. So the people that they suppressed or just uh, were not able to develop their spirituality um, as much as they wanted. So the ETs from Thiaoouba decided to intervene by sending a dream to the main priest, the chief priest, saying that you have to change. You cannot continue this anymore. Um, and otherwise, you're going to be facing very severe consequences. And the main priest believed that and told the other priests, and some of them agreed with him, but most of them did not. So the ETs just sent messages to the priest asking those who believed the main priest to leave that place to a safe location, and then they destroyed the entire city, uh, um, and so the priest that didn't believe the main priest got killed. But before that, they actually released all the prisoners, and then they actually the only people dead are the evil priests. So that's the first intervention they had on Earth. But
Wow.
that's 1.35 million years ago.
Wow. And so that predates Lemuria, Atlantis.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Um, and so what 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 did they teach Michel about the biblical times? What was their role in their intervention during this time period?
So they help people throughout history to develop their spirituality. The reason is that the people who first came to Earth, they had the knowledge, but there were resets of civilizations on Earth because of natural disasters. For example, even though the first group of black people and yellow people they brought technologies here, most of them died because of asteroid that hit Earth about 1.32 million years ago. So it wiped out the entire civilization. So people have to start over again from a very primitive state of uh, like environment and things like that. So they didn't have the knowledge anymore. So the ETs had to sometimes intervene indirectly, and to encourage people to develop their spirituality. So this is how like their roles have changed over time, and people just had to do that gradually, and without having to jump to like for example, if you're an elementary school student, you have to learn the basics. You cannot learn you cannot learn calculus that's taught in college. So people have to learn gradually. That's until the ancestors of the Polynesians came uh, about 250,000 years ago. They landed on the continent Lemuria. So they established a very flourishing civilization, and they built pyramids, and they built the statues on Easter Islands, the moas. So it's the book is very dense, so it contains a lot of information. Um, so and then there was another reset uh, because the entire continent of Lemuria sunk into the ocean overnight because of an earthquake. They didn't really give their technologies to the rest of the people on Earth. So the technologies such as levitation and how to build the pyramid, for the most part, was lost. Except that they passed the knowledge to people in Atlantis, and then a person from Atlantis called Thoth went to Egypt and built the Great Pyramid of Egypt. So that's the remaining what we can see about ancient civilization that used to exist on Earth. But as you know, even if using modern technologies, it will be impossible to build another Great Pyramid of Egypt. So that's the sad thing about it.
Have you, how do you think that they were built? I have an idea about how the rocks were moved. Do you think it was off-world technology, or do you think it was some gift and potential that we have as humans or spiritual beings, that we have other gifts and abilities to move things? Do you think it was that, or do you think it was actual off-world technology?
It's a technology that a lot of scientists have been gradually discovering here, now in the modern times. It's called the gravity or gravitational technology. So they're able to use a certain kind of vibration to neutralize gravity. And then, so when you neutralize gravity, no matter how heavy the stone is, it becomes weightless, without weight. And then you can move it around using different vibrational frequency. So they use this kind of technology to move the stones around. And they use a different technology to cut the huge stones in a very precise manner, what they would call the supersonic vibratory systems. They use supersonic frequencies to cut the huge stones.
For the cutting.
Yes, cutting, yes. So this is how they build it. Yeah.
I love that. I haven't heard that. I'm just going to write this down. I saw that I practice remote viewing with the groups. There's a lot of remote viewing groups out there, but I saw that it was sound, and sound was what caused it was able to lift. There was something about it, but I have never heard what you said about technology that canceled out gravity. And so, or using frequency to cancel out gravity. That's fascinating to me. And
Yeah.
I was just wondering if sound was part of it. That's why I asked this question, because I have a very clear visual of what I saw. And it was sound that raised a whole sheet of small, tiny little pebbles. And they were up and vibrating due to the sound and or frequency. And it was that lift of these tiny pebbles where the larger stones were on top, and they moved very easily on top of this sheet of very tiny stones. And they were vibrating and up off of the surface. And then the larger stones were on top and again moved around. That's what I saw. So that's what I was wondering. And I've read somewhere where people levitate through sound. I think it's in Tibet, actually. There are monks that have the ability to lift stones very high. That's a tangent, but that's why I asked. I'm curious if sound was a part of that.
Yes, it's part of that. Actually, the Tibetans use a musical instrument like a
Mhm.
horn to lift the stone up. to a very high place and move the stone around. And actually in Nepal, there's a monk that can actually levitate. It's actually documented by a magician called Dan White. If people look up on YouTube on History Channel, Dan White levitating Nepali monk, they're able to find that video of the monk levitating in front of a magician who cannot figure out how the monk did it. So that's the thing. Yes, they actually had a lot of other uh, technologies, and they had the knowledge to align the stones in a very precise manner, so that the pyramid can be used as an energy center, so that the great pharaohs in ancient Egypt could use the pyramid to send messages to people on different planets, because they can send signals or their thoughts through the top of the pyramid, projecting that energy into other space and onto other planets. They also use the pyramid to make rain. So as archaeologists discovered that back 12,000 years ago, or 13 or 14,000 years ago, where the pyramid is located now, was actually had had a lot of water in the past, and now it's kind of like a desert because people no longer know how to use a pyramid as a way to moderate weather.
So, thank you. How long was Michel here at this planet?
He was on the planet for 9 days.
9 days. And did it move the same as it does here? Does he speak at all about what time felt like? Was it the days longer? How did time feel, and how did he measure that?
He felt just like Earth, what like when the time moves. On that planet, the time, like a day is a little bit shorter than a day on Earth, because of the differences of the how they rotate their solar system, and but there's one thing. There are two things that Michel didn't. Michel had to adjust. One is the bright lights and the shining colors, so strong that he had to wear the sunglasses. And the other is the gravity difference. He had to be really careful when moving around because the gravity is lesser than the gravity on Earth. So when he used too much force, he would jump to the middle of the air and then wait until he falls. So that's the thing.
I've heard other people speak about a belt. Did he wear any contraption in order to help ground him into that space? I've heard of other people that were off planet and in other regions and star systems, and they would be given a belt.
No, I mean he wasn't giving a belt for that purpose, but he was giving like a device to move around. It's kind of like he had a belt that neutralizes gravity when he needs that, and then he had a handheld device that's like a pear shaped device that served as a navigation tool. So just like a handle or something like that on a vehicle, so he can move to the left to the middle of the air, and then like travel at a speed 200 miles an hour or so, something like that.
And was he in contact with just one being, or was there a group of them that was sharing this information? And were they speaking telepathically or with words?
The first time he met the ET was just one person, but once he got into the spacecraft, he saw like a dozen astronauts, all very beautiful, like blonde hair and angelic looking people. And he was told that they're hermaphrodites, meaning that they have both male and female sexual organs. The information he was told was mostly given by this one person named Tao, but he also met other people who gave him additional information. Specifically, when he was on the planet Thiaoouba, he met 7 masters of their planet, and then they gave him, the main master gave him the information about how we are as people on Earth, and actually it's a stern warning to us that we have to change how we live, otherwise we're going to be heading a catastrophe. So that's the warnings that he received.
And I want to ask you questions about the warnings, but first, would you mind telling us what is their story of how humanity was created?
It's a very good question. So there's a creator, what we would call God, and it's a pure spirit. So in the very, very beginning, the creator, the source, imagined everything like what was going to happen, and everything that imagined. And then there's a big bang, like a big explosion. So everything was created through the big bang, and it actually created the stars, the planets, and animals on different planets, and plants, and human beings on different planets too. So human beings are special because it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of us. So the pure spirit, the creator, can experience everything through us, through our physical bodies. So we are part of God and God is part of us. So this is how everything is created. A lot of people ask, like, who comes first, chicken or egg? And it's actually the cosmic rays, because when everything was created, the creator actually sent out cosmic rays that became cosmic eggs, and then the physical egg or chicken would form. The physical human bodies would form. So that's the thing. If you read a book by Barbara Brennan, Hands of Light, you're going to see that she actually can see um, the energy bodies of a person, and the main energy is actually in the stomach area, and it can spread out to 3 main parts and to 7 chakras, and then the 7 chakras would form the auras, and the auras influence the physical body. So the human being is special and is created by the cosmic eggs or cosmic rays. So that's how everything's created.
I love that. That fast. Can you talk just a little more about that? Just elaborate on those rays. You just
Yes.
did a great job, but I just want to pause here with this little piece of information because it's beautiful and it resonates so purely in my being. I love I love this. I just feel like God fell in love with himself or themselves. And yeah, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like what causes the first pulse of frequency? Is it love? There's so many aspects to the rays that you're speaking of. And can you just talk a little more about that?
Yes, the human body, human beings are extremely complicated. We don't just have our physical body; we also have our astral body, psychotypical body, astrotypical, and a total of 9 different bodies. And some people can actually see the 9 different layers, or some people can see 7 different layers, such as Barbara Brennan and Rosalind Bury and Judith Collins. They can actually see the auras of a human being. And what happens is that we are connected to the source all the time, if we want to, through meditation, through praying, or through dreams. So what happens is that we can actually get information or messages from our higher self, which is part of the whole entire system that the creator created. We are actually on a category 1 planet, meaning that we are just learning the basics, and there are a total of 9 different categories, and the Thiaoubans live on category 9 planet, the highest category of all the planets. And then above that, that will be the source, the creator. So we can connect to the creator through our higher self. And what happens is that when you want to go to heaven or paradise, such as a category 9 planet, you have to go through all the different processes in order to reach a higher level. That means you should follow the teachings of Christ, for example, as closely as possible, or the teachings of other spiritual masters, because there's a karmic effect for you during this evolution process. Um, so this is why, like, they sent Christ to us to preach about spirituality and love, because we're all connected to the source, the creator, because we're all created by the same spirit. And our mind influences the chakras that we have, and the chakras influence the auras that we have, and the auras influence the physical bodies that we have. So this is why if you meditate, improve your mind, then you're going to be healthier than if a person having evil intentions. So everything's connected in a sense, because this creation process dictates that we are all connected to the source. So it's better to love one another and to go back to the source to reach their like a beautiful world, just like heaven. In some ways, the Bible is correct, saying that if you follow the teachings of Christ, you believe in Christ and follow His teachings, you're going to go to heaven. But there's a catch: is that you don't go to heaven immediately. You have to go through this refining process, refining your spirit, and then move up the ladder step by step until you reach heaven. So this is why a lot of people say that if Hitler believed in Christ right before he died, will he go to heaven? The answer is no. He first had to learn, like, how he made such huge mistakes by killing all the people that he killed, and then he would be able to feel all the sufferings of the people that he killed, and realize that how wrongfully he conducted his actions in his past life. And then he would be so regretful, and he would tend to want to be the victim that he killed, to kind of experience how it is likely to feel once he become a victim. And then he would kind of go through this kind of spiritual evolutionary process and refine his spirit gradually in order to reach heaven. So it's not like once you believe in Jesus and you go to heaven. It's not like that. You have to do that gradually, like refine your spirit and your mind until you reach that state of mind.
I feel like that's becoming a sovereign spirit. It's our responsibility to transcend all of those feelings and emotions and experiences. Yeah, I feel like it's a responsibility of actual transcending the emotion and the experience. And it's a big work, and it's so beautiful. And I feel like the only way to that is to remain in connection with God or source, or and I feel like that connection stays open for me. I'm speaking on for myself, through love. Like, love for me is almost like the vehicle that brings me and allows me to travel these streams of consciousness between myself and all that is. And I love what you're saying. I just love this so much. And so, can you talk a little bit more about what else? Thank you for sharing all of that too, Samuel. Can you talk a little more about what Michel, what was the overall message from the Ethiopians? And yeah, what was the overall message?
The oral, there are a lot of
There's
messages,
a lot. Yeah.
very important messages. One of which is that technology should improve or should be used to improve people's spirituality and not to be used to lead us to a spiral downfall, a materialistic downfall. Kind of hinting like AI or something like that, like saying that we can use technology to our advantage to improve our spirituality and also to help us to love one another, be compassionate to one another. But on the other hand, it can be also a curse, just be utilized or be used by people to accumulate more wealth, because the accumulation of wealth will lead one group of people to be resentful of another group of people. So that's the danger. The real dangers on earth are in the order of importance. Number one, money. Number two, politicians. Number three, journalists and drugs. And number four, religions. So money is the root of all evils. So that's one of the key messages in the book. And the other key message would be that there's a solution to what we have on Earth, the monetary system and big corporations and things like that, or the result of focusing on money, is using nonviolent resistance to rise up against the tyrannies in the world, just like what Gandhi did in India, or what Dr. Martin Luther King preached. Because when we unite, we are so powerful that the big corporations or financiers have to listen to our wishes or demands. They rely on us, our labor, to make profits. If we all stopped working for them, we lose very little individually, like maybe like a few dollars or maybe at most a few $100. They would lose humongously because they rely on our labor to profit themselves. So if we all get together, have a nonviolent strike, then they would just change the entire system to make everything better. This they actually use the example of what happened on a different planet, in which it only took about 4 people to change a country from a totalitarian regime to a spiritual and democratic regime. So that's the example that they gave. The details are in the book.
And in what was his experience once he got back to, he was there for 9 days and they discussed these, giving him these messages, giving him a new way of looking at history, ancient history, contemporary history. When he returned back, Michel, when he came back, how did he assimilate all of this information when he returned? Did he go and just want to share it with everybody, or did he just go straight to writing a book? Like, what was it like for him when he got back, now that he has a completely different, I'm assuming it was just a giant awakening step for him. What was that like when he got back?
After he got back, the first thing he did
Mhm.
was to sleep for 36 hours. And then he gathered all his family members, his son, his wife, and I don't know if his daughter was present, but he told them the entire story and his son was very interested in his accounts and believed him. But his wife, Lina, was very skeptical because, after her husband was gone for 9 days, she thought that he was having an affair with another woman. So she didn't buy the story. And then Michelle was instructed to write a book first because uh, words will go away, but what's written down will remain forever. So that's what he was told to write a book. There are a lot of very interesting details in the book that he had a hard time remembering. But when that happens, he was given the information telepathically. Oh, you asked the question, but how they communicate on the planet? Most of the
Mhm.
time telepathically, but sometimes using vocal voice as well. But after he came back, when he was writing the book, a lot of information were downloaded to him. He downloaded a lot of information. So the images would appear in his mind to help him to write a book with so many details. Um, so that's what happened.
Okay, so he was getting downloads and had some type of interaction or communication after he returned.
One-way communication. They just sent him images and information.
Okay.
He wasn't able to communicate with them directly. So he received information, but couldn't really send his feedback.
And was that final that he had no other contact with them aside from the downloads once he returned?
Now that, well, indirectly, sometimes he needed help, like
Mhm.
desperately, and they would send him telepathic messages, but they didn't show up to him
Where do you
again.
think he is now when he passed away? Do you think he was connected to those beings and perhaps
I
is
think
went to is
I think
there
he
now?
I think he might be with them right now because the highest category of planet he used to live on was a category 7 planet. And
Oh,
from
okay.
7, he can go to 9 very easily if he wants to. Um,
Mhm. So, okay, so we covered a little bit about Christianity and the role that they had. One thing I just wanted to point out that I've heard you speak of that was in the book was that perhaps Jesus and Christ may have been two different individuals. And you actually sent me a link, and I started just to go down a rabbit hole and do a lot of research. So it's believed that, and if you don't have time for this right now, I would love to invite you back for another conversation in a month or two after I've read the book thoroughly. I can do a book report on it and research the star chart that you sent me, because it's just fascinating. As I mentioned, I study galactic astrology. I'm very curious how the planets, what fixed stars the planets are aligning to. Um, in that chart. Uh, and the chart is incredible. It looks like a Merkaba, the chart itself that you sent. So I know that's a lot, but can you simplify and explain why perhaps Jesus and Christ are may be two different individuals?
yeah, I'll just simplify it as much as I can. First
Mhm.
of all, astrology does have a scientific basis because the planets influence the electromagnetic forces of certain uh, events on Earth, including when a person is born. Um, then 81% of the electrons of the higher self would go into that newborn baby. The other 19% of the electrons actually come from nature, and the electromagnetic forces of the planets affect the 19% of electrons that go into a person. So because the Ethiopians have the knowledge, they're able to pick the right time for Christ to appear on earth. And they would have to pick a time in which everything would be perfect in terms of the electromagnetic forces affected or influenced by the planets in the solar system. So that's why when the astrologer uh, uh, that I mentioned in my article was called by a very mysterious person using robotic like voice and given him the a birth date and the location and the time of the birth. He was able to draw to make that chart that you saw on that page that showed like a saint like drawing, astrological drawing or chart.
I'm going to pull it up while you're talking.
Okay. And then he was so shocked, the astrologer was so shocked that he asked that caller, where did you get this time and birth information? And he said from the Vatican records. The Vatican records. So that's actually could be the birth chart of Christ. For Jesus, that's another story because according to Thiaoouba prophecy, Jesus, the one born from Virgin Mary, couldn't perform miracles, even though he was highly intelligent, having a very profound conversation with the teachers of the temple. He went to India, traveled through China, and died in Japan. So that's why there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo village, Japan.
That
And
was fascinating. I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yes,
That was incredible. Okay.
and that can be confirmed. The exact date of birth of Jesus, the one that was born from Virgin Mary, can be confirmed from the astronomical records of China, as described on the article in the article that I sent you. but there's also a birth chart of Christ. So
So
this is chart, yes.
this is it. I'm sorry, it's kind of going over, but this was the chart that you showed me or that you sent that the astrologer, please forgive me, I don't know his name in front of me. But this was just fascinating. And I went to pull it up and look at this chart in my own system. And the system that I use is unable to go back that far. But this is just incredible. You can see here how there's just these two grand trines. Everything about this is symmetric and incredible. And thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. So
I,
that article is kind of a very interesting article, but I simplified it as much as I can. Uh, but it requires a lot of knowledge to be able to understand it.
And so I just want to study everything. I just read it last night and I was blown away and I started to go off on a tangent on the astrology of these two beings, Christ and Jesus, and start studying the dates of the resurrection. But I would love a little bit of time to look at that and just share with you what I see and what I find. It would be really fun. And thank you for sending that. And aside from the obvious that they were maybe two different individuals, I was really trying to read between the lines to see what is this the article that perhaps has the information that Michel wasn't ready to disclose?
No, this is not it.
Oh, okay. I was really looking and trying to figure it out like a puzzle. So back to that, there were some information that Michel did not include in his book. And you, when you went to find him, were curious about this and trying to get this out of him. Did he ever tell you what that was?
Not on my first trip. The second trip, yes.
Okay. And have you shared that?
No, but I wrote
Okay.
an article, a different article,
Yes.
revealing as
Okay.
many clues and hints as possible, and
And
I can send it to you.
yes, please. I would love that. I
Yeah.
would love it. So there was some information, just to be clear, there's some information that Michel was given that he didn't feel that humanity or the Thioubians advised him humanity was not ready to hear and to receive. And Samuel went to try to get this information out of him, and Michel shared with him what that was. And so are you not saying it because you understand how humans may not be ready? Or
Uh,
what is your reason for not sharing that
I kind of
clearly?
feel that human beings on Earth are not ready yet.
Okay.
But the main reason is that Michelle told me not to tell anyone
Okay.
else because Tao, the ET, told him to tell me not to tell anyone else. So I have to
Okay.
keep the promise. But I can tell you that the article reveals as many clues and hints as possible. So it's just like a puzzle. You have to read between the lines and read into the article and have a profound knowledge about the book of Enoch and also the Bible, especially New Testaments of the Bible. The title of the article is Thiaoouba Prophecy, Will Jesus Come Back? The Second Coming of Jesus Christ and What You Need to Do for Preparation. So that's the title of the article.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I look forward to reading that. And this, I just want to show an image. This is the book, the Thiaoouba Prophecy, the Golden Planet. And you translated this from French to English,
No, no,
correct?
no. I've translated from English into Chinese. Actually, I proofread the translation did by someone else. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The translator from French into English is called Kay Smith. She's Australian and she's still alive.
So is there anything that what would be your message to humanity on how to move through what's going on in the world right now? Do you have anything special that you would share with humans?
I really would like people to have the knowledge of everything written in the book, and to wake up because a lot of people are still not waking up.
Yeah.
Um, but it also has to be a international effort, not just people in the U.S. or Canada. Also includes people in India, China, Japan, including people in the Middle East, um, just in Africa as well. So people need to get together to do something about it.
Are you in contact with any off-world species at all?
No, not that not that I know of.
Mhm.
The reason is that I want to be independent, want to learn as much as I can without their assistance. Because if you are trying to solve a puzzle or problem, um, you will learn the most if you do that on your own without the assistance of your parents. So this is my state of mind.
And this is, I heard you mention that Buddha is, according to them, Buddha was a human that moved through and ascended on his own without any assistance as
Yes,
well.
exactly.
As well. That makes sense. And that relates to, I feel what I was saying, like it's our responsibility for our souls to move through and transcend and kind of expand into this consciousness on our own. That makes sense. We become stronger and more resilient and just it feels good. You feel empowered when you grow and expand and move through, whether it's challenges or learning things about one another or connecting. It feels good when it's a sovereign motion, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
So, Samuel, thank you. We've been going for a little bit and I want to respect your time. Is there any last minute points that you would like to make?
When you encounter difficulties in life, look inside for answers, for the kingdom of
Yes.
God is within you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward, I may reach out and ask if you'll come back for another conversation. And I appreciate you. I honor, love, and respect you. I'm so grateful that you took time to put this information out there, to go find Michel. And I just send you the biggest, warmest hug. And thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.